Welcome to Mondays with Maxwell. My name is Mark Cole. I'm the president and CEO of the John Maxwell Leadership Enterprise. I believe every one of you watching this right now is just like John. You welcome Mondays because you look forward to starting your week off looking for ways to value people. And since today is Monday, my friends, let's hear from the man of the hour. He is our leader, our friend, John C. Maxwell.
John Maxwell here. I'm so glad you're back with me on Mondays with Maxwell. And we're in our best advice series. And in a moment, I'm going to give you my best advice, but I'm in Andrew's studio. As you know by now, Andrew always wants to put his 2 cents into our program and give us his advice. And so here's what Andrew shared with me to share with you as far as this is what Andrew says. He says, feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list? Well, try breaking your bigger task into smaller ones, more ignorable tasks. In other words, reduce it to the place where you can ignore it. Okay, Andrew, as always, you make us laugh. My best advice for today is very simple. People see what they expect to see. The thesis of the teaching is just something that you can put your hands around. There's a relationship between what we expect and what we experience. And so the question is, what kind of expectations are you setting? When my children were growing up, when we were getting ready to do something, there are a lot of times I would say, now, what do you expect on our little venture out today? We're going to perhaps a ball game. What do you expect? And I love to kind of ask them what their expectations were. And what I discovered was, not only in children, but in our lives, is that many times we basically see what we expect to see. So let me just share with you some observation I've had about highly successful people and their expectations. These are just my observations as I've studied history and I've watched successful people, and there are 4 of them. The expectations of successful people are as follows. Number 1, their expectations are much higher than normal. In other words, successful people, when they go into a venture, they, by and large, have higher expectations of what they expect to see, receive, give. Their expectations are just higher than the average person. Number 2, their expectations are almost always self-driven. It's not somebody else coming along and coaching them in what they should expect from the experience. They already kind of have a self-driven knowledge, intuition, and desire. Number 3, their expectations increase over time. Highly successful people don't go throughout life with the same expectation level. As they see and expect and experience, they're constantly upgrading their expectations. They're constantly looking for more, bigger, better things than they've ever seen before. And finally, their expectations are very personal and very clear in their life. Their expectations are not what they're trying to put on someone else. They are expectations that they carry with themselves personally. For example, Leonardo da Vinci. His expectations were very simple, could be described in a phrase that he often said, make perfect paintings. When he got ready to paint, he had an expectation of a perfect painting. Winston Churchill, during the war, his expectations were very clear, very strong. Stop Hitler. We cannot allow him to advance any further than he's advancing. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, his expectations, build Earth's most customer-centric company. We've got to be more customer-centric than any other organization. You see, they understand that what they see is what they expect, and so they make their expectations what they need to be seen. My advice to entrepreneurs, in fact, as I was working on this lesson, I wrote this down, and if you'll just let me take a moment, I want to read it to you. Set expectations as high as you possibly can, so long, don't miss this, Get the picture. Set your expectations as high as you possibly can, so long as you truly believe that these expectations can be realized. If you want unreasonable success, you must have unreasonable expectations. The ceiling of your future is the most that you can ever imagine and the most that you can ever expect. I was doing a podcast with my friend Ed Milet the other day. He's just a phenomenal, he's at the top as far as the ability to interview exceedingly well. I always love being with Ed. And this is Ed Milet's quote, and I don't want you to miss it. He said, you don't have to believe me, but you do have to believe that I believe me. That's huge. You don't have to believe me, but you have to believe that I believe me. In other words, when I set expectations, there have been many times I've had doubters, or they've had people say, oh, John, that's never going to happen. You can't do that. That can't be you really don't have to believe me. But when I'm giving you those expectations, you have to believe that I believe me. Because if I believe me, those expectations have great possibility. But if I don't believe me, I will sabotage myself. Maybe another way to say it is this: how we view things is how we do things. That's a fact. So when I thought about this lesson, I thought of the John Maxwell Leadership Center in Atlanta, in our boardroom, around where we make some major decisions. I have printed some major decisions that I've made in life. And this just fits so well with what I'm wanting to teach about what we see and what we expect. And so I made a ministry decision many, many years ago when I was in my 20s. And here's what my ministry decision was. I will attempt things so big that if accomplished, only God will get the credit. Now, that expectation just set my entire course. I saw it, I expected it, and I've seen it come to pass. So I'm going to give you now, okay, here's where just the practice come in and the teaching on our Monday with Maxwell. I'm going to give you two expectations that I have about life. And these two, you can adopt it, you can plan it in your life, you can put it into practice, and I guarantee you they'll serve you well. So let me give them to you. The first expectation is, I expect to see problems. In fact, can I tell you this? I expect to see problems every day. Mark Cole, the CEO of the John Maxwell Enterprise, part-time owner, he and I were on the plane to a university last night, and he was sharing with me a problem he had yesterday. And I got so excited about the problem. I mean, he was just wrestling. He was just going after it. And I got so excited. I thought, oh, this is so huge because he had already started handling the problem. And he was doing really good. And he looked at me and he said, John, he says, you're the only person I know that can sometimes get excited over problems. Well, I expect them. I expect them in my life every day. Honestly, I expect them in your life. So when people say, oh my gosh, I just got hit by a problem, I just say, well, I get hit by problems every day. I expect those problems. My life was changed when I read Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled. The opening paragraph sets up this book beautifully. Here's what he said. Life is difficult. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Because once it's accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. I just wish I had the ability to teach that paragraph the way he wrote it, because I truly believe that he is spot on. I think one of the first things we can ever do to build strong leaders is to say, let me explain to you, you choosing to be a leader means you choose to have a lot of adversity. If everything worthwhile is uphill for the average person, the only difference between this uphill for the average person and the leader's uphill is like this. If you're a leader, you just need to expect more problems because you not only have yours, but you have others. When I wrote my first book, Think on These Things, okay? I wrote it in 1979. In fact, it's still in print. I can't even imagine why it's still in print. It's beyond me. I mean, it was a terrible book. It was my first book. You're never good the first time. And you just have to trust me. 100 pages, 33 chapters, 3 pages per chapter. The only reason there were 3 pages because I didn't have anything else to say. Some of the chapters were 2 pages too long. If every once in a while you hear a little laughter in the studio, I have some on my John Maxwell Team coaches in here. In fact, when I'm done with this lesson, you're going to listen to one of them tell a very inspiring story about what's happened to them since they become part of the John Maxwell Team. But in that Think on These Things book, I had a chapter on problems. And I said problems are, the letter P, predictors. Problems always have a way, by the way we handle them, of predicting future success or failure. The letter R stands for the fact they're reminders. They help us to understand life is difficult, as Scott Peck said. Expected. The O stands for the fact they're opportunities because opportunities don't come to you as opportunities. They're disguised as problems. That's why so few people ever seize them. Because you don't see the opportunity first. You almost always see the problem. The opportunity is hidden within it. Letter B is problems are blessings. They're blessings. I have learned more from my difficulties, my failures, and my problems than I have all of my successes. The letter L is the fact that every problem is a lesson. Trust me, it's a lesson. And if I am teachable, every time I go into a adversarial situation, I'll come out better because of it. The letter E is the fact that problems are everywhere. They're everywhere. I got them, you got them, all God's children got problems. We all have them. Quit feeling so sorry for yourself. The letter M is the fact that they're messages. They send us signals all the time of what we're doing well, what we're not doing well. The letter S is the fact that all problems are solvable. I have a picture I want to show you. I want to show you the picture of when I was in Israel and we were out at Masada, and I had about 50 of my closest friends there, and we were climbing the mountain. We were making the climb, and so what you do is you see a picture there with a banner, and I just love it. Have you got that picture up for them so they can see it, Andrew? And what does the banner say, Andrew? Tell me what it says, buddy.
Everything worthwhile is uphill.
Everything worthwhile is uphill. It really is. That banner, that picture is my life. I expect problems every day. The second expectation I have is I expect to find answers. You see, you don't mind finding the problem if you believe that there's always an answer. Now, you have to understand, my father's mentor was Norman Vincent Peale. So one of the first books I ever read was The Power of Positive Thinking. I met him when I was in the 7th grade in Columbus, Ohio, at Veterans Memorial Auditorium. My dad took me there to meet him. So I grew up in a positive environment. The Magic Power of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, Move Ahead with Possibility Thinking by Robert Schuller. I grew up on those, and so I always expect to see problems, but I expect to see answers. And that possibility thinking that I have has taught me some things that I want to share with you quickly. Possibility thinking teaches me, one, to look for options. See, I not only believe that there's always an answer, to be honest with you, I usually believe there's more than one answer. In fact, when I find the answer, I'm pleased that I found the answer, but I'm never content like, okay, I found the answer. I just found an answer. And if I look long enough, there's a better answer, and there's high possibility that there's a better answer than what I found. But I believe there's always an answer, and I have that possibility thinking. It gives me options. Number 2, it allows me to persevere. When you believe there's an answer, you hang in there. You stay in the game longer. Who quits? People who think there's just not an answer. People who stop and say, wait a minute, there's nowhere to go here. Thirdly, possibility thinking teaches me to be creative. Again, I don't fear the problem. I look at the problem and embrace it because I know, hey, in the midst of this problem, that there's some opportunity somewhere, and it teaches me. It teaches me, number 4, to live on the other side of yes. I love the expression of living on the other side of yes. My friend Larry Stockdale taught me that expression. And living on the other side of yes just basically means that there's just always an answer. And if there's always an answer, you can live on that side. The greatest gap in life, I believe, is not the have and the have-nots. Greatest gap in life is the thinking gap. How we think. You see, thinking determines your expectations, and your expectations determines what you see. And if I could do anything for anyone, it would just be, I would just like to walk into their life, and I would just like to help them understand the power of possibility thinking. And by the way, the seeing what we see and what we expect, they are so close together. If I see the negative, I will expect the negative, and I'll receive the negative. If I see the positive, I will expect the positive, and I'll receive it. So what does living on the other side of yes mean? Well, here's what it means. For me, living on the other side of yes, number 1, it gives me a head start. You see, I'm always leaning in to yes. So what that means is if you and I have an opportunity, while you're kind of wondering whether you should do it or not, I probably have already started. I'm already leaning forward, ready to say yes. It gives me a head start. It allows me, when I wrote the book, 25 Ways to Win with People, one of the things I teach is be the first to help. Well, who's the first to help? The person who is ready to help, the person who understands that when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. They're already leaning into it. And so that you always remember the first person that comes to help you, but you don't remember the 5th person, the 6th person. You see, being first gives you that edge. It's not the fastest person that wins the race. It's the first person who started first. Living on the other side of yes increases my possibilities. You see, we only find our limits by pushing them. You don't find your limits by observing. You don't look and say, well, I think probably this is what I can accomplish. No. You have to push them. And living on the other side of yes, thirdly, it's the message that I have for other people. It's my message I have for you. It's the reason we're spending Monday with Maxwell today with Maxwell, because I just don't want you to miss this, okay? When many years ago, Margaret and I were dating, okay? This was in McDonald's in their early years. And I stopped at a McDonald's, and Margaret wanted a Diet Coke, and so I went up to the little lady there, and I asked for a Diet Coke. And she said, well, we don't have Diet Coke. It was before they had Diet Coke. So I thought, okay. I said, could I have a cup with ice, just full of ice? And now she's looking on her little deal to punch, and there's no place where it says cup, cup with ice. And so she said, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, I don't think I can do that. And I smiled real confidently at her, and I said, yes, you can. And she looked at me and she said, okay. And she went and got me the cup of ice, and she handed it to me, and I got in the car, and we went to some convenience store, and I got the Diet Coke, and I poured it in for Margaret, and all is well. And that day was a breakthrough day for me. Hopefully it was a breakthrough day for her. I said to myself, I'm going to spend my life being a yes, you can man. I'm going to spend my life looking into people's eyes like I'm looking into yours right now and saying, oh, yes. Yes, you can. It's kind of like my philosophy of life. Say yes, tell the world, figure it out. It just works. So the next time you have an opportunity, just say yes, tell the world, and then you go figure it out. The best advice I can give you today on Monday with Maxwell is people see what they expect to see. So if you raise your expectations, you'll raise your sight. Thanks for being with me today on Monday with Maxwell. I hope you enjoyed Monday with Maxwell. And one of the things I enjoy about coming together with you every Monday is to introduce you to some of our John Maxwell team coaches. I am so proud of our coaches. And I have Rodney Payne from Oklahoma City here with me. And Rodney, you really make me proud because you take the values of the John Maxwell team and you just spread them to other people. So let's just get acquainted quickly. Tell me about yourself. You've been a member for about 3 years, but what was it like before you became a John Maxwell coach?
Interestingly enough, I'm 25 years corporate America, full-time pastor. When I took over the pastor in 2009, I bought the 21 Irrefutable Laws, and we went through it as an entire congregation, particularly with our leaders, one at a time. Had no idea it was a John Maxwell team. This was 2009. And so
you took your whole congregation through the 21 laws?
I did.
I love this, man.
I did.
I just love this, man.
I did.
And so you never thought about being a John Maxwell team coach. We didn't have a team back then. So what happened?
So as I transitioned out of corporate America, and I was bivocational to start.
Sure.
When I transitioned into full-time ministry, I started a coaching company to offer some consulting, and I had 25 years of experience and no influence. And so that's when the John Maxwell team shows up after going through. We didn't just do the laws; we did the indispensable qualities. We did leaders around you. We went all the way.
You did it all, didn't you?
We went all the way in. And
you
so
did it all.
As we went through the process, then the John Maxwell team came available, and I became made aware of it. And that's when I said, I need this in my life.
So would it be fair to say then, Rodney, that you joined the John Maxwell team? You already knew how to coach. I mean, you knew. I mean, certainly we could equip you and help you, but you really needed that name, that influence that would help you maybe get in the door, that would allow you then to have a more successful business?
I did. I thought that's all I needed. I
Okay.
really did. And then I get in and we've got the resources. We have the support. We have the accountability. And so when you add all that together, so now I go from having a business name to an actual business. I go from calling myself a consultant to actually consulting. So it's been a life changer for me. And again, I did this for a living. I took care of people, business development, Fortune 500 company. John Maxwell team changed my life.
Rod, I'm so glad you're on the team. And I'm so glad that you represent us. And I just think that the days ahead for us as a John Maxwell team are even going to be better than they have been in the past, don't you?
I know they are. I'm more excited every day. I am.
You know, perhaps you're like Rodney. You kind of got your business act together, but you just need to upgrade and up-level. Maybe it's the influence, the name you need some. Perhaps it's the skill sets that you could have. Here's what I know. If you become a part of the John Maxwell team, what will happen more than anything else is you'll be placed in an environment of other successful entrepreneurs that will allow you to reach your success. I really am looking for you. Come on, join the team. Let's do significance together.
So now we see there is good advice and Andrew advice. Let's call that unadvice. I hope you've enjoyed today's Monday with Maxwell Lessons. What's some good advice or some unadvice you've received? Let us know in the comments. And what can we say about our John Maxwell team members? Every day, they look for ways to lead in and live out Maxwell leadership principles and philosophies. We're so grateful for the John Maxwell team. Each week, we'll feature a member or mentor from our team who will share their story and their journey with you. Why? Because we want you to see the real stories of difference makers, of value multipliers, and of possibilists. If you want to learn how you too can join John's team of difference makers, go to mondayswithmaxwell.com. Let me say that again. It's Mondays, plural, mondayswithmaxwell.com. Let us know how you saw Mondays with Maxwell and how you want to make a difference. Thank you again for watching today. We'll see you next week for another episode of Mondays with Maxwell.